Hello. So thank you very much for coming along to my stream again this evening. For anyone who is new to the stream and what we're trying to do here, I'm going to talk through that in a second, but what I wanted to point out first of all is that up there in the top right hand corner of your stream you should see Maurice. So say hello, Maurice.
Hello.
So Maurice is joining me today to talk about a PowerShell module called AU, and we'll get into that in a second. But I just wanted to point out a couple of housekeeping things. So hello to Kim in the chat room. Thank you for joining. We've got I'm going to go with Ryan. There's a little bit after the name there, but I'm going to go with Ryan to start with. So welcome along. In terms of the stream itself, the repository I always point people towards is this one on my GitHub repository. The intention behind this repository is that it houses all of the information about previous streams. So it has links off to YouTube that has the recordings of all of the streams that we do on this channel, as well as a kind of description of what was done in that stream. It also houses an issues list, and the intention behind the issues list is to provide a mechanism for making a suggestion about topics for upcoming streams. So if there's anything that you feel that I or someone that I could get on the show would be able to help with, feel free to add an issue into the issues list here, and we'll definitely take that under advisement. So this stream, the topic of this stream is going to change. It's changed slightly from the previous sessions that we've been doing. The last couple of streams we've been focusing on a new Visual Studio Code extension that I've been creating with the help of some of the people on the stream. So in a sort of a sidestep away from that, we're going to be talking about this thing called AU, or the Automatic Package Updater Module. So the first question is, what is it and why do we need it? Okay. The what is it is a it's an open source project created by this gentleman here. Is I don't want to butcher his name. I'm going to go with Meodrag. So Meodrag is the creator of the AU PowerShell module. Now, the what is it is it's a mechanism to automatically update a Chocolatey package. Now, the question that some of you might have is, well, why do we need to do that? So if we go out to chocolatey.org here and we just pick a package on the list here, let's use, what's a good example of one that we can talk about? So let's use Firefox, right? So Firefox is a Chocolatey package. You can just go choco install Firefox. Now, when Mozilla push out a new version of Firefox, there's nothing built into chocolatey.org that will automatically know that there's a new version available. What we rely on is someone, a maintainer, a community maintainer, recognizing that there is an update for that package and to update it and push a new version. Okay? Now, and that's great when it works. The slight problem with that is that maintainers' lives chop and change. Different things happen, different things take priority, and sometimes Chocolatey packages fall away. Now, we have a mechanism in place where we can add new maintainers onto a package so they can take over the maintenance of those packages. But that then lies the same problem. So there are two mechanisms historically in the chocolatey.org documentation that speaks about how to create automatic packages. So if I go up here and search for automatic packages, is it directly at the top here? I think it is. Automatic packaging. There are two mechanisms that have been used historically. One is a system called Kettering, that's documented here, and the other one is AU. So AU is kind of the newer one and the preferred one, and it is a mechanism that once you set it up, you can have it check for new versions of applications on a schedule. And it can automatically update it with the version numbers, descriptions, release notes, automatically bundle all that together into a Chocolatey package, and then submit that on your behalf to chocolatey.org. So the maintenance side of things becomes that little bit easier. So rather than having to remember or find out that there's a new version of an application available to then go and update the packaging scripts to then push it to chocolatey.org, once you've done the work of automating it through something like AU, the maintenance of that package becomes a little bit easier, right? So all of this being said, why is Maurice on the channel? Why is Maurice here? Why can't you just tell me all about it, Gary? Why? Because you're doing lots of talking, but you're not. Why is Maurice here? Right? Maurice is here because he is a community maintainer on chocolatey.org, so he has first-hand knowledge of using this system. So, a question in the chat room. What happens if Firefox pushes an update and then pulls it for security reasons or something? Okay, so that's a great question. Right. So let's field that one before we go into it too much. So, because this happens from time to time, right? So what will happen is, or let's talk about it specifically. So if we look at the Firefox package on chocolatey.org, what we'll see is that this package, the way that this works is that it reaches out for a URL. So there's a URL that is automatically updated. So the version number and the URLs are automatically updated as part of the Okay, I'm going to take a step back. I will point out that the Firefox package is an AU package. So if we go up here and we look at the package source, then if we click on this and look at this and see how it's implemented, we can see that this update.ps1 file, which we're going to come on to, is an AU script. So this package is an automatically updating script. So on that schedule that I spoke about, AU is going to run, it's going to find out that a new version is available, it's going to do all the packaging changes, it's going to update and then it's going to push a new version at chocolatey.org. So in this case, we would find that it updates the URL, and it will, when you attempt to install that package, it will download that and it'll attempt to install it. That's what Chocolatey does, right? But what we'll also find in here is that this package uses the concept of checksums. So at the point in time that that application was released, if that checksum at the point of installation testing didn't match the checksum that it was intended, then it would fail package verification. So it would never get approved. So if, in the scenario that you described, if they push an exe or an MSI to a location, AU picks it up and attempts to bundle an installer, and then Mozilla come along and change that, then the approval process will not complete. Now, if it does complete because they pull that after the fact, then the maintainer will most likely start getting reports that the checksum doesn't match what's being installed or what's being attempted to install. So as Kim's mentioning in the chat room here, there is a mechanism to unlist a package if it's deemed that it was it's now for security reasons it's been removed. So you can definitely handle most of those edge cases have happened in the past. So there are different mechanisms in place for handling those scenarios. Yes. Okay, so going back to who Maurice is, I'm pointing the wrong way. Maurice. So Maurice is a maintainer of several Chocolatey packages, and I think the number is 81 now. Maurice, is that what you told me?
82?
82?
81,
oh, you created a new one today, didn't you? So, yeah. So AU is Maurice is actively using AU to update all the packages that he owns on chocolatey.org, right? So my life as a maintainer of Chocolatey packages has kind of come to an end. I don't do a lot of maintenance of Chocolatey packages anymore. I still dip my toes in every so often, but it's not something that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So I thought it made more sense to get someone, i.e. Maurice, onto the stream to tell us about his process, how he does things, and how he's able to maintain those 82 packages in a sensible way, right? And yes, Ryan, that is a lot of packages. There's there are only a few people on Chocolatey.org that have that sort of number of packages. Maurice is one of them. But I think it's fair to say that number of packages would be difficult if you didn't have something like AU in place to help you with that, Maurice. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Okay, so what is it? Because the intention of tonight's stream is to take an already existing package and convert it into an AU package so that it will automatically update when it detects that there's a new version, right? Now, the package that we're going to be looking at, if I go up here and search for a package called ProGet, so there is a ProGet package that already exists on Chocolatey.org. It's unfortunately fallen behind a little bit, so there are new versions of ProGet out there. You can go to that Enido website and you can download that directly. But what I would like to do is I would like to have the Chocolatey.org package, the Chocolatey package on Chocolatey.org for ProGet to be up to date, right? I think you need to slow down, Maurice. So Kim is one of those other community maintainers who has a high number of packages. So I would be doing a disservice to Kim to not mention that. So the end result of tonight's stream is to try and take this existing ProGet package and make it into an AU package that will automatically be updated on a schedule, or rather, it will automatically check for new versions on a schedule. When it finds one, it will create that package and automatically push it to ProGet, to Chocolatey.org. Okay? So, the question becomes, Maurice, how do we do this? What do we need to do to make this happen?
Well, for starters, you need to have, I think what a good start is to get the template of Chocolatey and fork that one. I've created a cleaned repository on my GitHub that you can use. So if you go to the GitHub version that I created, that's the repository that I created. So
what we're talking about there is that there are predefined templates or suggestions on how a repository, because normally when you're maintaining a lot of packages, you want to have the packaging scripts in source control so that you can look at the history, you can see why things have changed, you can accept pull requests from other people. So there are, at the minute, there are kind of 3 different templates available. The first one comes directly from Meodrag, so it's his suggestion on how you set up a repository to work with AU packages. The second one is a package template that comes from Chocolatey. Now, the reason that this one's different is because this one tries to handle both sides of that automated packaging. This repository is set up to handle both Keterin packages and AU packages. So what we're talking about is using specifically AU packages. So there's stuff in this template that we don't need. So what Maurice has done is he's forked that template and cleaned it up so it's only got specific files and folders for doing AU packages. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. So the suggestion is that we go ahead and fork this then. And I've got multiple things called Chocolatey Packages, obviously. So we're going to fork this to Chocolatey Packages 4 in my repository. It's a bit of an unfortunate name, but we'll run with it. But what I might change this to before we do too much more is I'm going to preemptively call this Enido Packages. Enido Chocolatey Packages.
This is a different one, I think.
No, I don't think so. This is Chocolatey Packages 4, right? So this is...
but it's forked from a different repository.
Yeah, I think it's lost the link there, but it is... this is your files, right? No?
No.
Oh, what happened there? Let's try that again. So this is... That's not your template. So where did that go? Let's go back to this one. And I'm going to say fork. You've already forked Chocolatey Packages. Oh, this is the scenario where you can't you can't have a fork with the same name or come from the same point. And because I've already got one called that, so I'm going to have to go to this one and I'm going to have to delete it. So this is forked from here. I probably forked this because I was making a suggestion to it. So I don't actually need this fork. So let's go ahead and delete this one then. I'm going to delete this repository. And it's called get13/chocolatey packages 4. I do understand the consequences. Thank you for that red text. I'm going to find my GitHub password, which is over here. Paste that into there. Okay, so now if we go back to your template repository, which is here, Maurice, and I say fork, there we go. Okay, so now I'll be able to change this. So we're forking your Chocolatey Package template into my GitHub profile, and now I'm going to go ahead and change it to something that makes a little bit more sense. The reason I'm doing this is because I've actually spoken to the team or part of the team at Inido, and the intention is that the team at Inido are going to take over these AU package, or rather, take over this AU package once I've set up the one for ProGet, and they're going to look into extending that to some of the other products that they're working on. So I'm going to take an opportunity to rename this before I do too much more. That was one of the reasons I decided to not set up my own repo as a fork, but rather a full repo. I actually thought about doing that as well, Kim, and I forgot that was the reason that I wanted to do that. But I think for now we'll talk about a fork. I can always create this as a full repository later. So for now we've got Inido Chocolatey packages, so I can go ahead and clone this. So if I go and grab that URL and go into here and say git clone this guy, then we can cd into that, and we're going to open up a code session to this folder. And what we're going to need to do is, or what we're going to want to do is, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code's live share functionality to allow Maurice to see and edit the files that we are working on here. So I'm going to do that through live share, and I'm going to send Maurice a link so that he can sign in. So I'm going to send that over here to Maurice. And then under live share, I'm going to do something very risky, and I'm going to give Maurice access to my terminal session within Visual Studio Code. And he has promised that he is not going to do any nefarious commands in that PowerShell session. So if he's doing anything malicious, feel free to shout in the chat room. If you keep an eye on Maurice, that would be appreciated. Right? So I'm assuming you got the link and you're able to. There we go. So Maurice is now in the collaboration session. And what we should be able to do is, if I do view up here and go terminal, that will bring this up down here. And then what we should be able to do is I can right click on that and say make read write. So this is the risky part, right? So now in here, if I do this, and if Maurice can type a non-threatening command just to check that everything is working there, that would be good. Oh, beautiful, look at that. Okay, so Maurice has control. So if you see the screen moving and I'm not explaining what it is, it's just because Maurice is. So this is it's a great feature in Visual Studio Code. It allows. The reason that it's great is because I have Visual Studio Code open on my machine here with all of my extensions and all of my setup and the way that I like to have things, the theme and all that sort of stuff. And Maurice has the exact same code open in his instance of Visual Studio Code. So might have dark theme, and it might have a different setup and how it where the Explorer is and all that sort of stuff. But it means that we can collaborate on the same code base without being forced into using a different setup. So it's really, really useful. And that's Manfred in the chat room. That's Manfred. You can just stop that sort of suggestions. I've already told Maurice that he's not allowed to do anything like that. So no, I will be watching. So let's talk through Let's talk through this template. So if you can talk through what's here, Maurice, and what they are, that'd be good.
Okay. What we have in the template here is we have in the automatic folder there are some. Probably you're not going to see that I opened the folder here.
So I clicked on it for you. So
okay. In the automatic folder, there are already two packages that are in the template as a stepping stone where you can work from. Basically, what I tend to do is I remove those packages because you can see them on the original repository as well. But these are there to help you and make a stepping stone. Second of all, the folder icons. There are some icons there to work with that are for the packages that are there. I remove them as well. I think what we need to do is we need to go to the setup folder and install the AU on that machine.
So this setup script is going to do everything we need to get AU installed and up and running on this machine. Is that right?
Yeah.
Now we spoke about before the stream. We spoke about how that there were different versions of AU. So there's the module that you can install, but there's also this source code that you can build from. So is it recommended to use the module, or do we compile from source, or what's the recommended approach?
Personally, I use the master branch at this point from NeoDrag, let's call it that, and work from there because that has the latest updates and patches that is already created but not put into a package. Okay.
So if we run this setup, it looks like it's going to install the AU module. So do we actually want to run this, or do we want to?
It's for now. It's fine, I think.
Okay. So what the suggestion is then, if we just run setup,
just run it in the terminal, I think. We can run the script in the terminal.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to where we were. So this is setup, and then it's called AU setup. Okay, so if we run this, it will error. So why did that error? Oh, because we're not an admin. So in order for this to function, we would need it to be an admin session. So let's not kill the Visual Studio Code instance that we just set up with the live share. So I'll just bring up an admin PowerShell session here, and I'll run it directly from here. So if we do setup and then AU setup, let's run it from here and see if we can get that installed. So it seems to be thinking now. Okay, so it's downloading the NuGet provider for PowerShell Get, I think. So PowerShell Get is used to do the install module command. So the module. So Kim's saying on there as well to use the source code in the same way that you were kind of suggesting. So should we do that first then, or what do you think we should do?
Yeah, let's go with the Git version. I would say just clone it and run the installer.
Okay, so let's do this then. So here is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and let's go up into the people folder. I don't think I've got a Mio one. So let's do a make here of it was Maj Kinitor, and then cd into there, and then git clone that. So in here there is an installation script, I think. Is that right?
There should be.
So there's a setup.ps1 and there's an install.ps1. So I'm going to go with install. What do you think? We probably
Let me check real quick.
We probably shouldn't just run a random script from a repository. So let's just do a little bit of a sense check in here. Install.ps1 or so
installation PowerShell Chocolatey download.
So Kim is suggesting that we run the build.ps1 with the install flag. So let's do that. Okay. So that's off and running. Okay, so it has installed that, and it's given me an output here of the commands that we can use. So the one that we're going to be probably looking at most of all is the update package commandlet that you can just about see because of my head. So there's a bunch of commandlets. There's a bunch of commandlets that come with AU that are centered around testing and installing and testing and packaging scripts ready for pushing to chocolatey.org. Okay, so now that we have that installed, what do we need to do next?
Well, now we have it installed, we can copy over the package that we already have and go from there.
Okay, so you said let's go ahead and delete this HTML tidy from here. We'll tidy up the
Nexus OSS.
The ones that came up with this. So that was Nexus OSS, and then in the icons there was a Nexus OSS PNG. So we're at a completely blank slate now, ready for doing this. So the one thing that we did prepare, or I prepared earlier, was a shell for the ProGet package. So if I have a look in here and I look in my temp folder and in this ProGet folder, then this is the makings of the package. So we weren't, the thought process was that we weren't going to not bore you, because that's the wrong word, but the focus of this stream is not about creating the Chocolatey package for ProGet. It's about taking that package for ProGet and making it an AU package. So this is one that I've prepared earlier. So if I copy that and put this into the GitHub folder for Get13 and for here and into the automatic folder, I can paste this into here. So now we have a ProGet folder that is the ProGet package, right? Now, I think I'm right in saying that there is a convention on AU repositories that are set up like this, where the folder within the automatic folder is the same as the ID of the package. Is that correct?
That's correct. There is a way to overrule that. You can set a package name from within the update script, but let's not go there for right now. If you want to investigate in that, you can read it in the documentation of AU.
Okay. So, what do we do next?
Yeah. So I think we should finish the package. I think a bit because I always put the version to 0.0.0 when I create a new package in my repository, so it will automatically be filled with the latest version that's available in the from the website.
Okay.
I think we need to set authors here because it's not valid at this point.
That's probably a good idea. So let's just quickly put this in as the authors of the package. Let's cut to the chase, because I think they're going to own it. So we'll put Inido as the authors.
That will be the owners field that you need. That will be.
But they're going to be the author. So they're going to own it, and they're going to be the authors of it as well. That's the intention. Yeah. So let's just go over here and do a quick search for ProGet, and we'll get the project URL. So that's this one. And let's put this into here. Okay. So tags. What sort of tags do you put into your packages? So we've got ProGet because it's the name, and then Inido. And
admin, because I need admin permissions there.
Yeah. And this is it's a repository of package. What's a kind of a one-word tag for what ProGet is? I think what we have there is fine. So the summary,
For now, yeah.
The summary is
package your applications and components.
Yeah.
Just go there.
Let's put this in here. And then a description is, let's click on this and try and get this text. Developer libraries. Why would it not let me take that text? I just want to take that text. Is it going to let me? No. Okay, let's not worry about that.
Maybe from the original package.
That's probably a good idea. Yes. What was the original package's description? The original package's description is this package sets up a ProGet instance on this server. Sure. The best universal package manager with the world. Now, Manfred, let's not be derogatory to an application like that. That's naughty. No, let's not go there. So we've made the summary, we made the description, and so this package has a couple of dependencies on it. So when I was creating this package for testing purposes, it was found that there is a dependency on .NET 4.5.2, and as a result, and also on the Visual C++ redistributables. So that's why the dependencies are in there. So like I say, there's probably some more information that goes into here, but what we've just done would make it so that the chocopack command will actually work. So with that done, and with the chocolatey install.ps1 file filled in, we have a package that we are ready. We could take this just now, and we could pack it, and we could push it, and we would have a working new version of ProGet on chocolatey.org. Now, the only caveat to this installer is that the installer itself needs some additional information in order to complete the installation. Now, that can either be in the form of a license key, or you can provide your email address and username or full name to allow the installation to happen, right? So by default, this package is set up to install the Express edition of ProGet. Now, as a result of that, it needs to have a full name and an email address passed in, right? So if those things aren't passed in, then it will fail, okay? If you don't provide an email address and full name as a package parameter into the install command, then this installation will fail. But that is a side effect of the way the installer itself works. Okay, so there's not much that the Chocolatey package can do to work around that. It's a prerequisite that needs to be there in order for it to work. Okay, so the one thing that will need to go into the description at some point is information about how that command will work. What is the example command that needs to go in to make those package parameters work? So that's something that will go in, but that's later. Okay, that's, like I say, it's not the focus of the stream tonight. What we're talking about is how we can get this to be automatically updated. Okay, so now that we have a package in a situation where it would pack, what do we do next?
Well, if I'm correct, you got an URL from Indeo.
That's correct.
Contains the update information.
So right? Yes, if I go ahead and grab that. So the suggestion that came from Inido was that if we were to go to, if I copy this. So this is what we're touching on now is, in order to know that a new version of an application is available, we need to be able to trawl or crawl a website that will allow us to know the new version number. So if we were to go back to ProGet here, the main page, and go back to where we were, if I go back to here, I think it's then, if, for example, we click on this download button, then somewhere in here, the version number would be. So the version number is there. So in theory, we could have AU. So the fundamental of how AU works is that it needs to fetch a version number and a URL from somewhere. Now, that's obviously normally the website. Now, we could, in theory, go to this page and we could find via regex or some other website or some other identifier on the website, extract that version number, and then use that within AU. Now, the suggestion that came from Anido was to use this one. So this is an XML file that they host on their server that contains just the version number. So this is kind of exactly what we need. So we need to know what the current version number is, and then with that information, we can then construct a URL to provide a download URL that the package can then use. So this is what we're going to use as first of all, right? So this is going to be our first pass. We can use this to construct an AU package, right? How do we do that? That's
correct. So what I most of the time what I do is I work in PowerShell to create my commands and create my set of commands that I need. What I want to put in the end in my AU script.
Okay.
So the first thing you want to do is you want to have a variable where you store the URL where you're going to download it from, or where you can find the version. Most of the time it's called releases. And if I just paste it here in the command, you should see that in the PowerShell.
Yep, you can see that. Yep.
So this is the URL that you got from Indio. Basically, what you do next is you use the basic invoke web request with the URI and pretty much use basic parsing. Use basic parsing to get the information into the variable. So if you go to download page .content, you should see that you have the XML in a variable there.
Okay, so just take a step back, just so that everyone's following along. So when we went to that URL in the browser, what was output was ProGet current version 5.1.23. So all that you've done there is using the wonder that is PowerShell. You've said invoke web request, which is essentially a get to that URL, and take the response from that and stick it into a PowerShell variable called download page. Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. If you go to the full download page, you get some other information there as well. Invoke REST method. I don't know if it's work. I never done it, to be honest. Sorry, I'm responding to a question on the chat.
I saw that. So Matthias on the chat is asking invoke REST method should work for XML, right? Maybe. Any compelling reason to use a REST method over web request? So Matthias is an Azure person as well as a bit of a PowerShell guru, so he might be able to explain why we would do one over the other. There was another question there from Justin, Digital Drummer. Just as a quick recap, so today we are looking at taking a Chocolatey package. We have a Chocolatey package that we are already maintaining that is done as a manual effort. So we're looking at taking that and creating an automatically updating Chocolatey package using a system called AU to allow automatically checking for a new package application version to then automatically create a package and then submit that to chocolatey.org on our behalf. And Manfred in the chat room has also picked up on the fact that, yes, there is invalid encoding on that response that we're getting back. So this is something that you were mentioned to me earlier, Maurice. So I'll let you pick it up from there.
Yeah. What you see in the first 3 characters there is the bomb header of UTF-8. UTF-8 bomb header. I googled around a bit. You can just do a easy replace of the 3 characters with nothing. It's the easiest way, and perhaps, I don't know, that the invoke REST method would fix it. I don't know.
So maybe we could try that. So is it worth? I think invoke REST method can just take a URI. So what do you get if you do download page to invoke REST method? Just to see what comes back.
Let me check. Yeah. So it will be invoke in URI $releases use basic parsing. Yeah,
So
you get the same result.
The same thing. So
either
way, so this is something that we might need to hand back to Anido guys to see if there's something they can change on their server so that doesn't come through. But you have a workaround for this at the minute, right?
Yeah, I do. Basically, what we're going to do is we're just doing a bit quick and dirty and just replace the invalid text. So then we get a valid XML.
I'm going to leave that question in the chat room to Kim to handle, because I think he's got a better understanding than I do, certainly. I'm going to leave Maurice to carry on with this regarding the use basic parsing and why we've seen problems with it running on AppVeyor and why we use that. So let's carry on. So we've now got, we've essentially replaced that bomb header. So we've now got something that we can convert to valid XML, right?
That's correct. So you can convert it into a valid XML, and then you get the XML object there.
Mm-hmm.
So then basically what you can do is dot ProGet. And then you have current version, and then you get the current version. It's basically a pretty straightforward, easy way to get the current version.
Okay.
So to be put in a variable as well in the end. So basically we have a way to define the version at this point. If we look at the Chocolatey install.ps1 file, there should be a URL there with the version number in the end.
Yeah, so currently the manually created package uses a URL that is just anido.com, files, ProGet, SQL, and then the version number at the end. So what we're talking about is now that we know what the current version of ProGet is available, we could in theory do some sort of replacement of that URL in here, and then we have a new package that has pointing at the new URL that we need to download from.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is we would go to either my repository or the repository of the core team packages or any other repository, and take a look at a update.ps1 script.
Okay, so let's go to, so I'm in your repository now, and anyone in particular? Let's look at...
let's go with, let me think, which is a good one. Oh, no. Now you're asking me a difficult question, you know. Yeah, I think we should go with MySQL, for example. It's a pretty easy package.
Okay, so MySQL. So in this MySQL package on your repository, we have a similar layout to we had before. So we have a tools folder that contains the Chocolatey install.ps1 file. We have the new spec file that we were working on in Visual Studio Code, and then we've got this update.ps1 file. So in this update.ps1 file, it would appear that we have two main functions that are in here. One is called AU search and replace, and the other is called AU get latest. And in the AU get latest function, we're doing stuff that is similar to what you were just doing at the terminal. So
that's correct.
So we need, in our update.ps1 file that we're away to create, we need this get latest function. Is that correct?
Yep, both functions basically. So we can take this file as a stepping stone, and let's call it update.ps1 as well, and so just change the things that we need to change.
So I'm creating an update.ps1 file, and I'm pasting in the contents of that update.ps1 file from your MySQL package. Okay.
So next thing we can do is we can replace the text for releases.
So at the top here, there's the releases. Yep. Okay.
You're going to do it, or should I?
If you have it in your ready to go, let's do it.
So now I changed the releases URL, and pretty much what I'm going to do here is use parsing as well. For this one, we don't need this thing, so we're going to remove this for now. So we have the download page again, like we had in the command, and we are going to create our version
variable. Yep.
And from there we can define our URL. So I'm switching a bit to the update script and copying and pasting now. Okay. So this is the base, and then $version. You could do some sanity check. $version is get version $version. To make sure it's actually a valid version number. AU will shut down basically when it finds an invalid version. This is a way to get around it, and it will strip all spaces and stuff around it, basically, and will make it into a valid version.
Okay.
And we have a URL here now with our version in there. This should be a valid URL. I haven't checked it, to be honest. We can check it if we want and see if we get a file there.
Okay, so let me do that then. So let's grab this guy and let's new tab into there, and then the version number that we had was 5.1.23. So if we hit that, then yes, we're getting a file downloaded that is the ProGet setup 5.1.23.exe. So yes, it would appear that is a valid URL. Yes.
So that's perfect then. Depending on how you want to do it, you can create a variable with all the variables that you want, or just return everything in one go. It is different on different packages from me as well. But yeah, you should return at least the URL and the version if you want to work with it. You have a URL 32 and URL 64, depending on your package or your software, if it's 32-bit or 64-bit or both. And then here on the bottom, you have the update, and here we are defining that we only want to checksum for 32 bits, because we only have a 32-bit URL.
Okay, so let's pull back a second there, though. So what you're saying is that AU, so let's go back a step. So on lines 23 and 24 here, what we're doing is we're constructing a hash set of variables that we're returning from this function. So this getLatest function will be called from AU. So AU has an expectation that there's an update.ps1 file for each package. And then for each package, when AU runs, it's going to run that update.ps1 file. And then what it gets returned to it, it's going to use that to make a decision about whether an update is required or not, right? So in this scenario, we're saying that the latest version that we found is 5.1.23, and the URL for that is what we've constructed here. So then, internally, AU is going to use that information, and it's going to do a sense check against what exists on chocolatey.org today. So the current version on chocolatey.org is 4. something. So with that information, AU would then know that an update of this package is required, correct? So what AU will then do is that on our behalf, it will then download that URL that we provided for it. And then based on this section at the bottom here that is 27 through 29, is it will download that URL, and then it will also provide a checksum value for that downloaded exe or MSI, correct? And
That's
then
correct.
that can then be used in the function above. So if we scroll up a bit here, then this once AU has all of that information about the URLs, the checksums, and all those things, we can then use those calculated values or those provided values to then in place update the variables contained within the files that we're interested in. So what we said before was within this chocolatey install.ps1 file, we were hard coding a URL and the associated checksum. So what we can then ask AU to do is to replace those with the values that it's found. So what we're saying up here, so I would imagine that this code here is probably going to be the same across a lot of your packages. You might have additional replacements in here for 64-bit URLs and 64-bit checksums, but I would imagine that this is going to be very similar in all the packages that you need to do. The thing that's going to be different is how you're getting that version number, but the actual replacements are going to be the same. So in here, anyone who loves reading regex can see what's going on here, but essentially what it's saying is find a variable called URL, find a variable called checksum, and find a variable called checksum type, and then replace those with the values from that global variable that we returned to AU. So we're asking it for the URL 32-bit, the checksum 32-bit, and the checksum type 32-bit, and replace those in the chocolatey install.ps1 file for us automagically. Yes?
That's correct.
Okay. So in theory, this is it. We've done everything that we need, right? No, not yet. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
For the AU script, yes.
Okay.
In the install script, we currently have the package arguments. This will work fine. However, I tend to put them on top here with the right below the error action preference.
So what you're talking about is further up here. Okay, I see where you are now. Yeah.
URL. They will be updated later from the AppVeyor script. Equals ABC.
Yeah. So this is kind of your preference. So in theory, we could have had the regular expression actually look for the splatted values if we wanted to. But your preference is to take all of the things that are dynamic within the chocolatey install.ps1 file and bring them to the top of the file, so to make it easier to see what's dynamic and also to make the regex, I guess, that a little bit easier to do the replacement as well.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, perfect.
And then in the end, on the bottom, again, so within the package args, you have to scroll with me.
Yep, I've scrolled.
I put in here URL.
Yeah.
And for checksum type, it's not required to define the checksum type again, but I tend to do it. Basically, if you at one point decide to change it to SHA-512, you only have to change it on one place, and then it will be updated on packages.
That makes sense to me.
So basically, this should be it. We should save this file.
Okay, so maybe what we'll do is, before we do anything else, if we're at a point where we're kind of pretty much there, we'll maybe do a check-in, and we will, or a commit rather, just to say what we've done. So this is a maintenance commit.
I wanted to start there.
So if we say remove template files that aren't needed, so we deleted the HTML tidy application or package. So we deleted that one, that one, and the icon we deleted, and then we deleted those ones. So we can delete all of those. So let's commit those changes, and then we'll say ProGet added initial package files and AU update script. Okay, so we've got a starting point. So we've reset all the version numbers. We've made some ones that we know are going to get changed. So we have a starting point now. So we've reset the version number in the new spec file. We've set the package information to something that won't work. So if we were to attempt the ChocoPack and the Choco install right now, it would fail because we've broken the URL, we've broken the checksum, we've broken the checksum type. This package is now broken, right? So you would think we've kind of gone back a step, but now we should be able to use AU to perform the update on our behalf, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so how do we do that?
To test it, I use the PowerShell again. So if you can scroll up here a bit, I go to the folder, automatic, and this is almost the ProGet folder.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, I just run update.ps1.
Okay.
So it says it failed.
It does. It's saying can it convert value, so it seems like it hasn't done the replacement of the bomb.
Can I convert value?
Manfred is suggesting, I think you mixed up the quotes at the top section, doesn't the regex? That could be related, but that's not what's going on here.
No, it's shouting about the replacement. That's not working. Let me see why it's not working. Because if we would run this command, basically, we should get a perfectly correct version here. And version will get a correct version. So
Matthias is suggesting parentheses before the cast. So I'm assuming here he's referring to... Yeah, I think he's suggesting, do we need additional parentheses around the entire thing? But why would it work at the command line in the terminal, Matthias, and not when executing? I mean, we could try that.
Yeah, sure.
You have ridden. What does... Not sure. I think Matthias might be on his phone, because his... I'm going to guess that he is on his phone. Maybe out for... I'm typing on my phone. There we go. Called it. Change the encoding of update.ps1. It needs to be UTF-8 with bomb when using non-ASCII characters.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay. So that suggestion's coming from Kim on the chat room there. So how would one do that?
I think
So it's saying UTF-8 here. So can we change it here?
I think I've just saved it with UTF-8 bomb now.
Okay, so what did you do so I can show people what you did there?
I clicked on the bottom, I clicked on the UTF-8.
Uh-huh.
And then it asks what you want to do.
So it says reopen with encoding or save with encoding. So you clicked on...
Save with encoding.
And then it shows you a list of... I see. So you can save it with UTF-8 with bomb, which is what you did. Okay. So should we try this again?
Yeah.
So I'll let you drive again.
Okay. Let's go with the update of PS1. And it failed again.
It failed. It's...
Okay.
Does the specified node is wrong type? So let's just try, see if that didn't go through. So let me just save it down with that as well. And then... Okay, so I saved it, and it's getting further now. Okay. So now I think we're on to the error that Manfred mentioned, where our regex is not quite the same. So the regex here is looking for... I
think this one is...
single quotes, whereas the one that we are doing is double quotes. So let's be consistent with here, shall we? And let's make these single quotes. Okay.
And let's run it again.
So then we'll run update.ps1 again.
And as you see,
now you'll see it happening in situ. Look, so it's replaced the URL with something that is... Now we're on to something different though. So hold on. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So it has replaced the URL, but it hasn't replaced the checksum and the checksum type.
Yeah, that's because AU uses they call it a monkey-patched version of Chocolatey install of PS1. Install. No, the install Chocolatey Package script. I believe, and he tends to find the checksum from there because they calculate the checksum already when you try to install a package.
Okay.
And basically, this script that we've created here dies at the point where you do not have a valid parameters here. Okay. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to calculate the checksums before we before update. Yeah.
Okay, so let me paraphrase that to make sure that I've understood it correctly. So what we're saying is that AU, in order to calculate the checksums, it will utilize the install Chocolatey package commandlet that ships with Chocolatey, but it changes that so that it doesn't actually install the application, but it can use the information that it can get back from the Chocolatey install Chocolatey package commandlet as a source for finding things like the checksums. Yes? Now, what I said before was that the Chocolatey install.ps1 file for ProGet relies on some additional parameters. And if those additional parameters aren't found, it will bail. So it will throw an exception. So you'll see that here is that it's throwing an exception here. And that's the error that we're seeing output on the terminal here. So what you're suggesting is rather than allowing AU to do its magic to find the checksum for us in that regard, we can do it as part of the update.ps1 file. Is that correct?
Yep.
So the other question I would have is, if this is a monkey-patched version of the install Chocolatey package, do we have an opportunity to pass parameters into that as a part of the AU execution? So, i.e., could we pass package parameters that are just fake information to make it work?
To be honest, I don't know.
Okay. So that's maybe a question for the chat room, if Kim maybe knows. But for now, what you're suggesting is if we go back to the update.ps1 file, and I'm assuming that you're talking about augmenting this hash set that we're returning with the checksum values that we want to use. Is that correct?
Yeah. We need to calculate the checksums ourselves before we update the files there.
Okay.
And I'm looking for an example that I had before.
Okay. So Kim's followed up in the chat room while you were doing that, saying that no, it's not possible currently to kind of mock parameters going into the install Chocolatey Package commandlet. And Manfred's asking, is there an environment variable that suggests AU is running? This way you could just skip the check. Or rather, everything is possible through setting normal Chocolatey environment variables, but I would suggest that. Is that I wouldn't suggest that, Kim? Yeah, okay. So everything is possible through setting normal Chocolatey environment variables. Yes, but that's at the system level, so it's probably not the best idea for what we're doing here. Okay. So, are you changing something in this file, Maurice, or where do we?
No, not at this point. I'm just looking for an example where I did it before, and unfortunately I can't find one. Maybe there's one in the core team packages. Well, basically what we want to do is we want to download the software ourselves and calculate the checksum and add it to our latest variable.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need to do is in the documentation from AU, there is a way to do a before update.
Okay. Kim sent us a link here. So I don't know if you won't be able to see it, Maurice, in the stream, but
yeah, I can see it in the chat. Let me see what he did there. Before I get remote checksum. Yep.
So there's another function. So what we said before was that there's typically two functions that you need to use within your update.ps1 file. One is the search and replace. So that is what you are searching and replacing in one or more files based on the values or the asserted values that you found as part of your AU execution. The other one was the get latest, which was you fetching all of that information. But in this example that we're looking at here, there are two other functions being used. One is the AU after update and the AU before update. So in this one, what Kim is suggesting is that we can additionally set information into that latest global variable, which is the checksum value, and that is done using this get remote checksum commandlet, and it needs the URL to download and the algorithm to be used. So if I followed this correctly, what's going to happen during this execution is the get latest commandlet, or the get latest function, is going to be called, and it's going to set things like the URL 32 and then the checksum type 32. Then it will call the before update function, which will then additionally use that URL and that checksum type, download that file and find that checksum value. Then the update, the search and replace, will be done, and now we have all the information that we need to update all the files that we're interested in.
Yeah. Although with the function that we see here, we need to set our checksum type ourselves, because the checksum type here is used from the latest, and it will be set via the.
I see what you're saying. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we go back into here, so I'm going to paste this before update function into here, and we're not dealing with 64-bit URL, so we're going to take that out. So that function just works as is, but
we
as you said,
we can strip the algorithm altogether to use the default SHA-265-256.
Or as you said, we could take this value and we could add that into our array down here, not array, the hash set. So we could say that checksum type is equal to SHA-256 or whatever is being, or 512, whatever one we want to use, right?
Yeah.
Which one do I prefer? I think I prefer putting that beside here as opposed to leaving it to the default or putting it up there, because the default could change in future versions of AU, and that might have another knock-on effect. So I think I would prefer to control that within the update.ps1 file itself. Okay. I prefer 512 when using URLs. That's just me. So Kim's saying that in terms of how he runs his packages, he uses SHA-512 rather than SHA-256. There's another comment here that was, to be honest, I think I prefer setting up an environment variable like AU update package in update.ps1 at the beginning and use that in Choco package. It's not nice, but pretty easy to grok. You could unset that environment variable at the end of it. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like that either, Manfred, I'll be honest. But okay, so going back to where we were, so we've now got a before update function that will be called. It knows what the latest URL 32, and it knows what the latest checksum type 32. So what AU is going to do is it's going to run off now, download that URL for us, apply the algorithm to find out what the checksum is, and now it should be able to update those values. Now it shouldn't need to use the monkey patched install Chocolatey Package commandlet, and it should be able to fill those values in. So if we go down here and we run update.ps1 again, what happens now? We'll get another error. It's still attempting.
Oh, I know.
Oh, because we've got the checksum 4, haven't we?
Yeah, on the bottom we find that we want to have a checksum. So we need to change it to checksum for none.
And is that like this? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, just to clarify what's going on here. So AU by default will do exactly what you tell it to do. So even though we had set the value for the checksum in that before update function, we were still asking it to find the checksum for us. So even though we've done that work already, it was still trying to do it for us. So by saying checksum for none, we're then controlling the AU execution to then say, actually, don't worry about doing that for us. So now if we go back to here, so it did set the SHA-512 for us, which is what the value was, but it wasn't able to find the checksum. So if we run that update.ps1 file again, now we'll see it downloading that file. Okay. So it's downloading that file. It will apply the get file hash with the algorithm that we specified, and then it will be able to update that checksum value in our Chocolatey install.ps1 file. And the output here that we're seeing is attempting to build package from ProGet.newspec. So it's actually, so if we look over here on the left hand side in our browser, it's actually now created that nupkeg, or that new package, with all of that information that's been provided to it. So it found that it was 5123. It has updated the files. It has then run ChocoPack to generate that nupkeg, and the output here is a table of information to say what happened. And now we have, in theory, we could take this nupkeg and we could push this to chocolatey.org, right?
That's correct.
And if we do this, and if I right click and say explore zip file, then let's just have a quick look to see what's in here. So if we look in the, let's just see what it did to all of these files. So in the proget.newspec file, it's done what it needed to do there. It's put that 5123 in there. And then obviously it's taken that chocolatey install.ps1 file and it's put those things into here as well. Now what it has done is and this is the kind of the key difference between what AU does and what Kettering used to do. So Kettering was very much driven by template variables in the Chocolatey packaging scripts. Now, the end result of that was that the current files on the file system would never kind of accurately reflect the current known version of the package. But what AU has done is it's actually modified the files. And now the intention is that this file would then be checked into source control when that package got released. So there was a traceability there to show exactly what changed between each version going out the door. And there's a statement of record in the commit history to show when things go out. So that's kind of the key difference between how Kettering used to do things and how AU does things. I personally prefer this approach because then, like I say, there is that traceability to know when things have changed. So yeah, so in theory, this is it, right? We've done everything we need to do. So if the version changed in that XML file that we're downloading from the Anido website, it would then cause this update process to happen again, right? Now, where we are right now is we're not really any further forward than we were before, really, because it's still kind of a manual process right now to run that update.ps1 file. So what's the next step to get to a truly automated release of a Chocolatey package? What else do we need to do?
Well, you could do it different ways. For me, I've set up an AppVeyor environment where basically every 4 hours, I think, the update all script that's in the root folder of the repository will be executed, and well, it just checks every 4 hours if there's an update of a package, and if there's an update of a package, it will automatically build it and push it up to Chocolatey.
Okay.
Well, that's a way you could go, or you could set up a scheduled job at your local machine. Set some variables in a file there, which is documented in the AU repository, and run it as a scheduled job.
Okay. So, out of interest then, so right now we ran the update PS1 file locally, but AU didn't attempt to push the package on my behalf. So is that something, if I did want to do that, is that something I would do manually, or could I have AU do that for me as well?
AU can do that for you as well.
Okay.
That's an environment variable. If you look at the update _ all.ps1 on line 11.
11.
There is a push equals env AU push equals true.
Okay.
Basically, that says, okay, you should push your package to Chocolatey.
So I would need to set an environment variable called AU push and make that environment variable true. And then on this update all.ps1 file, it would then push to chocolatey.org on my behalf, correct?
No, you need obviously the API key.
Yes. Sorry.
Set.
Yes. So yes.
In the AppVeyor YAML file that's there, if you look at that file, there are some there are some settings that you need to configure there. For example, your API key, because obviously AppVeyor does not have your API key available. So you need to set it yourself. It's on line 45. And they suggest, and you should encrypt it before putting it in your GitHub.
Yep.
And it will be encrypted for you only and not for everybody.
Okay.
It's a different one, I believe, per repository. But,
yeah, so the environment variable, the encryption that's done by AppVeyor is user-specific, yes. So it would need to match the user account that the project is set up under. So, yeah, it would be different for everyone. Now, there's a comment in the chat room from Kim here. I would like to say one thing regarding the update.ps1 file. It isn't really recommended to run that file manually since it sets all variables globally and they aren't released when the script have finished running. Recommend using the testall.ps1 file when testing updates, like testall ps1 with the package name. So let me just parse that slightly. So what you're saying is, Kim, that when I ran this update.ps1 file, these global variables that we were returning to AU remain set after that update.ps1 file was executed. Is that correct? And then they're still there, they're still active in AU, so it could cause conflicts, I'm guessing, if you then tried to run update.ps1 on another package. So what you're suggesting is that the preferred approach would be to run this testall.ps1 file, which I'm assuming literally does everything. It would do what it says. It says test all, but you can specify a package name as well. So if we were to, let's maybe just try this then. So let's go back to our chocolatey install.ps1 file and let's just delete this URL as a test.
But you also need to update your newspec file. AU verifies if the newspec file is the same version as the file as the version that you're returning, and they won't update it.
Okay, and then let's get rid of this nutcake as well. So what you're saying there, Kim, is correct. Not conflicts, as new variables would replace the old ones, but if one have been forgotten to be set, it would still be available. I see what you're saying. Okay, so there's potential for not corruption, but certainly inconsistencies, let's put it that way, between the executions, depending on how those variables have been set and unset. So it would update it if it was using test all. It would just add a fixed version. Okay, so we'll come on to that. That's for me, Kim, that's a kind of slightly different conversation. So what you're saying there is it would update it, but it would add a fixed notation. Let's put it this way. AU has functionality built into it for handling those edge cases where it's known that the application version hasn't changed, but the packaging has changed, and then it needs to do what's referred to as a package fix notation. We'll talk about that another day, I think. So for now, if we go up a level in here and look at our testall.ps1 file, and I pass in ProGet as a name, let's use the testall.ps1 file. So requires authentication. So what is okay? So this is where this testall.ps1 file is attempting to do stuff on our behalf, and that is for. So there's a bunch of what's known as plugins into AU for doing stuff. Now I was going to show this earlier, but if we go up to the Chocolatey Core Team Packages repo, so the Chocolatey Core Team Packages repo has something like over 200 packages anyway. So every time, so the way that this repository is set up is it's set up to run, I think, every 6 hours. So every 6 hours for all of those packages, it'll run off and run all those update.ps1 files, and it will attempt to update those packages if there is a new application version. And the output of that is this thing here. So this gist or gist is the result of that last execution. So every time AU runs on this repository, it will update this gist with the result of that execution. So what we'll see here is a really nice layout in Markdown of what happened for each of those packages, whether there was errors, whether there was known to be a new version, whether it was able to push it, all the information that you would want and need as a report on what happened. So in this execution, we'll see that, for instance, it finished processing 234 packages, and it took 6 minutes. So it took under 6 minutes to test that there were no new application versions for 233 packages. And for one of them, it was able to find that there was something wrong. And the something wrong was the inability to get the version number for a particular package. So TextMaker, it wasn't able to find the upstream package application version. This sometimes happens if the vendor website was down, it wasn't accessible, or there's a change has been made to that vendor website that needs to be altered in the update.ps1 file. Lots of things can happen, but the report handles all of that, and it keeps it up to date, and generally makes it reasonably easy to continue to maintain those packages to know when something goes wrong. Now, I think what's going on is that this thing here is attempting to create that gist for us when we run that test all.ps1, but I could be wrong with that. That was just a response regarding the need to change the version when doing the test. Got you. So I think what's happening here is that in this test all.ps1 file, it's trying to use that gist plugin. Now, I haven't set that up, so it's attempting to do something it doesn't have access to. So I'm going to guess that down here, there is this here. So the fact that this test all.ps1 has got this in here, I think means it's going to attempt to do that push of that gist. Is that correct, Maurice?
Yeah, I think that's right. But I also noticed that there are 0 updates, 0 push, 0 ignored, 0 errors, 0 update, and 0 push.
You're referring to this output here, yes.
Yeah. So I'm wondering why it didn't work.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, so what you're saying is it hasn't actually updated the Chocolatey install.ps1 file. So there's two things going on here. So the first one is that it's attempting to do something locally that we haven't got set up. So let's correct that one. So if I were to just go ahead and comment this out just now, because we don't want that plugin running, and if I run test all.ps1 ProGet again, it's now not going to error on that because it's not doing that anymore. So force is enabled, all packages will be updated. Saving markdown report over there. Fine. So the update force test.md, if we look at that in preview mode, then last one was okay. Finished 0 packages after minutes, 0 updated, 0 pushed, 0 ignored. So yes, it hasn't updated anyone. Line 3 of the script needs to have the automatic folder specified in the root. Right. So that is in line 3 of the script. So this one here. I see. So if we have a quick look at the template that Meodrag uses, then he has all of his packages at the root of the repository. Now, what we've got in our template, in the template that originally comes from Chocolatey, is that there's an automatic folder. So the reasoning behind that is that within our repository, you might have automatic packages, the ones that are being updated by AU, but you might have the concept of manual packages, ones that are not AU because for whatever reason, for reasons, it's not possible to update those automatically. So you have a manual folder, or you might have another folder that is for, I've seen also the concept of deprecated packages. So you want to keep the packaging files around for deprecated packages. So there's kind of a hierarchy to the folders. So what Kim is suggesting is that rather than using the PS script root as the root of the folder, I'm going to say we need to just put automatic on the end of it. And let's run that again. Okay, so now it's doing something, I think.
Yeah, I changed it to PScript root / automatic.
Well, so did I.
Yeah. Great.
Or did you change the update all? Or because I was in the test all?
I think, well, test all I did. Let me check with update all. Yeah, update all the same.
Okay, perfect. So now it's saying 1 updated, 0 push, 0 ignored. So if we check our chocolate install.ps1 file, it has updated the URL, it's updated the checksum type, it's generated the nupkeg, and we're ready to go. Okay, perfect. So now there's a couple of things that we could do. So as you said, we could run this all locally as part of a scheduled job on our local machine. In order for that to happen, we would need to provide some environment variables to it was 0.39 minutes it took, so whatever that is in proper seconds, less than a minute anyway. That included downloading the file and grabbing the checksum, so that's not a bad time at all. So we could run this locally as a scheduled job on this machine, but probably the recommended way, the best way of doing it, or the way that we've got examples of it running, would be to use something like AppVeyor. So if we go back to the Chocolatey Core Team Packages repo, so let's bring that up. So the Chocolatey Core Team Packages repo, and Kim's repo, and Maurice's repo, and Paul's repo, there's lots of examples out there of doing this. They're all set up to use AppVeyor. So AppVeyor, if I have a quick look, let's see if I'm logged in over here. So if I go to CI appveyor.com, and let's have a look at some Chocolatey. So if I go over here and have a look in the settings, then what we'll find is that the schedule here is set up to run. So the AppVeyor uses the concept of cron to run the schedule, and there's a really helpful website that I can never remember where it is. But if I go over here and search for cron, I've done the wrong keyboard shortcut. There's a really helpful website that helps you visualize cron syntax. There it is. See, Kim had it to hand. So let's paste that into here. That's exactly the one that I was thinking of. So if I take this cron schedule from here and stick it into here, then what it's saying is that at minute 5 past every 6th hour, do something. So what we're saying to AppVeyor is that every 5 minutes past every 6th hour in the day, do something. So that equates to essentially 4 times a day, because there are 24 hours in a day, and 6 times 4 is 24. I went to school, me. So it's going to run 4 times a day. 4 times a day it's going to check for those new package versions, application versions. Now, you could make that faster if you wanted to, because we saw that the actual execution was, less than 5 minutes? Is that what I said? So in theory, you could have it run more often than that, but you're in a situation of diminishing returns at that point, because application versions don't update on that sort of cadence. So having something like 6 hours is probably more than fast enough. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend you doing anything else than that. So AppVeyor's setup is essentially a glorified scheduled task, but it is doing more stuff. It will create that gist for us. It will, and the way that AU is set up in AppVeyor on the core team packages repo, it's got lots of other stuff in terms of creating releases and storing those releases, because you'll see that there's 2,835 releases here. That's something that's specific to the core team packages repo and how it's set up. So that's something you can look into. But for now, in theory, I could set up my own AppVeyor project and use the update all.ps1 file that I have here to do just that. Now, because I'm not planning on owning this package, that's not something I'm going to do, but that's something that I can certainly pass on to the guys at Nido to say that this is what you want to do. Oh, it is. Okay, so what Kim's saying there in the chat room is that it's actually another plugin. So if I were to look at the update all.ps1 file and how they've got their plugins set up, so there's a report plugin, which is the one that we spoke about. There's a history plugin, which again lets you go through the history of executions to see if things have been happening for a while. There's a gist plugin. There's a Git plugin. There's a Git releases. So there's a Git releases plugin here that is it's a plugin that will take the output of any AU execution and store them in the GitHub releases section. There's a Gitter plugin for posting information to a Gitter room about the execution so you can know if things have failed or not. There's a mail plugin for sending failure messages about any execution to people that are interested. So there's lots of setup that you can do here. It's entirely flexible is what I'm getting at. There's lots of things you can do in here. And like I say, I went through all those packages, package repositories. There was Maurice has got his own one. Kim's got one. The core team packages repo is probably the biggest one. I think that's right. I don't think there's any more than that. But there's plenty of examples. Pobby has got his own one as well. So there's lots of examples of how you can see what's been set up and what's been configured. I'm not going to go to that extreme in this stream because I don't think it's justified. But what I hope we've shown, there was a little bit of backwards and forwards there in terms of getting it to work, and that was it always seems to crop up and it still doesn't make sense in my head properly. But this whole concept of encoding and making sure that that's correct, there's a little bit of work there that we had to do. So we had to make sure that the update.ps1 file was UTF-8 with BOM for it to work correctly, so that the encodings matched what was being executed. But the lion's share of the work that we did was really find out where we can get the version number from, find out where we can get the URL from, and once we have that information, we essentially do a search and replace across the files that we're interested in, and that's it. And it does all the work for you. Now, so talk to me, Maurice, about when things break. So what happens when an AU package stops working? What are the kind of the typical reasons that it stops working?
The website changed.
Okay.
Or the URL changed.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things. Most of the times it's the version, the way you calculate the version changed, or the URL changed. Mm-hmm. Pretty much those are the reasons, at least in my experience.
So the example that we had, so from Nido, we had a dedicated URL that gave us back XML. So that can reasonably be known to not change very often, hopefully. But I can imagine that for some packages, you have to go directly to a website to find out a specific table, when maybe in a row that has the version number in it. So if that layout of that website changes, then that's essentially going to break the AU update, correct? So it's no longer going to be able to find that version number, so that will then break the package creation.
For example, if you go to my repository and go to, for example, book collector.
So I think I've still got it open. I may have closed it. So let's go github.com/kevinar. Chocolatey Packages. Yep. Which one was it?
In automatic book collector.
Book collector. Yep. And then the update of PS1.
You see that I have two variables there, one for releases and one for a software URL, because the software URL is basically static. And as a base URL, you download I tend to get the absolute URL based on the request there. But in this case, I'm using a regular expression to get the version number from the page. Well, if they change something here, because I have to do some funky stuff to get a specific element, where inside the, in this case, a bold element contains something with version. I have to correct the version number from there and work with that, because they don't provide a URL where you can get the specific version like we have for the
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then Kim's just adding there that layout changes don't always break the update. No, you're right. So I mean, what I was referring to there was if they change the underlying HTML, and if you're searching the document that comes back for a specific element within the HTML element to find the version number, then any changes to that potentially break things. But it really depends on how you're constructing the regex or the enumeration of that HTML file to find that version number in the first place. But the point being is that the changes to the URL almost always break the updater. Yes. So we find that even in non-automatically updated packages. I mean, vendors sometimes change URLs to download things and they don't provide 301 redirects, and it's just a fundamental change to how the URL is structured. That breaks packages, and it obviously breaks the automated updating because it's no longer able to find those URLs in order to get the checksums, to do the work, and to create the package. So I think that's pretty much it then. So we have a working update of a working AU package now for ProGet. So in theory, the final test would be to test to see if it installs, I guess. So let's just check that. So there is something, I think, I don't know if you use this or not, but there is a mechanism within AU to test it with the Chocolatey test environment. So you can actually tell it to provision the Vagrant box to run the install and to test whether it works correctly. Is that right?
That's right. I haven't used it. I know it's there. It's a test package command. I haven't used it before.
So I don't have that set up on this machine. So I'm in a VM already, so I don't have another hypervisor within inside this VM, so I'm not going to attempt to do that. But that's certainly something that can be done. So I'd point you at the documentation on the AU itself to see how that test package commandlet could be used. For what I was going to do is I was just going to attempt the install, if I'm honest. So if I were to go up to this automatic folder, I'm in the wrong one now. So if I go back up to my GEP13, and then we called it Inido Chocolatey Packages, and in there under automatic and then under the ProGet, we should have a nutkeg. So if I do choco install chook, what's chook? Choco install ProGet, ProGet, and the source is just going to be the current folder. I'm just going to ham that in. So this will fail in the attempt because we haven't given it the email address and full name properties that are required. So if I run this differently and I instead pass in params equals, and then we need a email address. So we'll just put, everyone knows my email address, it's all on GitHub, everyone knows what it is. And then my full name is I can't spell my own name. Park. So this same one is used when testing in VMs, test package params, whatever. So hold on. So what you're saying is navigate to the package directory. You can use test package. So it doesn't actually use the VMs. Same use. So if I haven't configured the VMs, you're saying I can do that instead? Test package params, whatever. Well, let's.
Last time I tried it once, and I think it failed, saying you need an environment variable to show where the vacant file is.
Okay, well, let's give it a try. I'm willing to try it. So let's do test package. In that folder, so you said navigate to the package directory, which I've done, and use test package, passing in parameters of. It's got parameters there, so let's parameters, blah blah blah. Path not found. Have I done something silly there? Let's maybe take the equals off. Path not found.
I think you need to provide the package name.
Oh, hold on. Is it? I thought the point in navigating into the folder was that. Oh, there we go. Look, it was the double slash. So, what's it doing there? Package info, test package, ProGet forced, chocolate installed 0, one package failed. Throw choco install with last exit code. Oh, I see. So the format's slightly different. So let's try copying what Kim's put into the chat window there. Oh, I can't. Of course, I can't copy because that would be too simple. So he's suggesting that we just have email address, that, and that we need a comma, full name, blah. No, scratch that. It's just a string, not a string array. Oh, okay, hold on. We'll get there. Let's try that then. The install method invocation failed because system.boolean does not contain a method called trim. That's something in the... Now, trim is... That's something in the chocolate install.ps1 file itself. Now, I was using trim on here. Yeah, I had the same thought, but I tested this. I definitely did. Definitely did. So the trim is here. But it's saying system.boolean. So why is it
there's
because system.boolean does not contain a method called trim. Why is that a boolean at that point? I wonder. As a test, I'm just going to do choco install ProGet that I was going to do before. And just see what that comes up with. See if that comes up with the same error. Email address.
Like Kim said here, you need to use a semicolon to separate the keys and not a space.
Well, let's try that. So I was getting myself confused in terms of whether this was syntax specific to the test package commandlet, or whether that was actually the same syntax that you would use if you're passing to the package parameters of Chocolate itself. So let's try that then. Email address. must be provided. So why is it still not? Is it
you need the column there, I think, instead of the equals.
I have it, it's there. That's how I get normal colon. Are you sure? Hold on, I'm getting myself confused now. Normal colon, not semicolon. I'm so confused right now. Where? Oh, hold on. Let me find it. Between key and value, not between several. No. That's not a requirement. I'm not convinced that that's a requirement. I'm really not. So what you're suggesting is that that is... I'm fairly sure that the equals works as well, Kim. I'll be honest. But this is just going to work now. It is. But hold... No, the equals definitely works. So the question that I have is AU using the built-in get package parameters, or is it using the one that comes from the code extensions? Because I am convinced that the equals sign works. In fact, I'm looking at an example over here on my other machine where the equals character is used and it works correctly. So you're going to send me to our own documentation now, but
it's not. He states it in the docs.
you're going to send me to our own. See, but that doesn't fit with what I'm looking at over here. But I know I've done it before. And hold on, I'm going to look at something else while that's installing. So that's currently installing a bunch of stuff on ProGet. So it's currently installing ProGet. And then I'm going to have a look at something over here. Chocolate. Over here. And then where was that? No, that's maybe not what I was looking for. That's going to annoy me now. I'll be honest. That's going to annoy me. But I'm going to shelve that for another day because I know Maurice has a hard stop in a few minutes. So as a quick recap, we have created a update script for ProGet using AU, meaning that it will automatically check a URL that we provide, and if it finds a new package version based on what's currently available, it will update in this case, just the chocolatey install.ps1 file, but it could equally be another other files within the same package. It's going to take the found version number, the URL, the checksums if you have it, and it's going to update those things. It's going to generate the nupkeg. It's going to potentially push that package for you as well. So it will potentially take that package and push it up to chocolatey.org if you'd set up the environment variables in such a way that it would know where to push those things to it. And then you can then extend what we've done here to use something like AppVeyor or Travis or Azure DevOps to run that on a scheduled cycle and have it do those checks and automatically push those things. So that's what currently happens. So now it's installing. So because we installed with the default, which was the Express edition of ProGet, it will install a Express edition of SQL Server so that it has a backing store for all the stuff that it needs. So that's what it's doing there. It's installing SQL Server Express edition for us automatically. That should all be silent, so it came up and showed us, and then it'll go away. And then it will install actual ProGet once that database instance is there. So now in theory I could take this update PS1 file that we have and run the update all.ps1 file, and oh, it failed. Oh, why did it fail? What? See the log from errors. So there is a log file that, so I'm gonna have a very quick look at this, Maurice, and then
yeah, sure.
Notepad plus notepad file open. So the SQL Server Express installer returned an error. It could be Maurice. It could be Kim. It could be exactly that. But I'm going back to your other comment. You're correct. It should work with it equals as well if using the built-in addition found in the actual documentation for the function itself. Yeah, I thought that was the case. Let me install module pending reboot. Is that what it's called? It's a really useful PowerShell module that tells you if your machine is actually pending a reboot. So if I do, what's it called? There's a function. There's a commandlet. Install module pending. I was there just today looking at this. It's a commandlet called, well, that's another way of doing it, Manfred. Test pending reboot. So if I do test pending reboot, and we'll call that as detailed. We are pending a reboot now, so that could well be causing a problem with the installation of that package. So we'll put it down to that. Absolutely. So Maurice, Manfred, we could have done that, yes. And yeah, I'm not going to say any more on that. I'll be honest. So I think that's what's going on with the SQL Server installation there. It's causing a problem. Yeah. But I have tested that package in isolation, and I know it does work. So I'm going to put it down to that being the case. So without further ado, I think we should draw this to a close. We've set out what we set out to do. I think we've achieved. I hope you'll all agree. And we've done it in a way that would be scalable to other packages. As we mentioned, Maurice has got 81 packages. Kim's got some sort of stupid number similar to that as well. The core team packages has 234 packages being updated and checked on a regular basis. So it's definitely doable. It's AU is the automatic updating system of choice. 17. Oh, it's so close. It's almost like a battle between Kim and Maurice here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Kim's probably going to have another couple of packages done by tomorrow. But yeah, so it can be done. AU is good at what it does, definitely, goes without saying, and it's the one that we recommend. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to hand this repository over to the guys at Nido, and hopefully that they'll be able to take ownership of this and get those packages pushed out and do it in an automated way, so that the ProGet packages on chocolatey.org are ready to be used. So that's all I have to say. Maurice, do you have any closing comments before we bring it to a close?
No.
Okay, perfect. So thank you to everyone on the chat who joined us. I hope that this will be useful to you. I hope some of the sidestepping that we had to do over some of the issues will provide some insight if you're running AU or for your own systems. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And for now, then, I am. Oh, what's that? Maybe I should include those I've worked on in core team. Yes, Kim. It kind of goes without saying. So I was going to mention this earlier, but now that Kim's brought it up, Kim is one of the core contributors to the core team packages repo. I think it's safe to say that the core team packages repo wouldn't be in the state it is today if both Kim and Mio hadn't done all the work that they've done. So we're entirely grateful to both of those, as well as the other contributors to the core team packages repo for keeping that up to date. So that 234 packages that are updated on a 6-hour schedule wouldn't have happened without Kim. So whatever 234 plus 79 is, so Maurice has got a bit of work to do to catch up. But no, we are entirely grateful to all of our community maintainers who do an amazing job in keeping those packages up to date. So we're very grateful to them all. So that's it from me. Any closing words, Maurice, again, or are you happy to bring this to an end?
No, I'm happy to bring it to close.
Cool.
To bring it to an end.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming on the stream with me. This has been very useful. And I've learned some stuff out of it as well, so it's all good. So with that, I'm going to stop the stream, and we shall talk to you on Friday on my lunch hour again, doing some more. Haven't decided yet, but I'll come up with something, I'm sure. So talk to you all later. Thank you very much.
Thank you.